Carter. Just kind of what have you seen out of them in these first 3 practices?
We've been seeing some really good growth from them to where what we say, the injuries and things like that, they're kind of in the back window now, in the rearview mirror. So from a growth standpoint, seeing them continue to take the next step to being able to be better, to being able to be elite, and to be what we call the trendsetters of the linebacker play on our team and our organization and in the country.
What could you not see out of Arion in the spring because of the injury that you can now see, and how does he look in that way?
Well, in the spring, you couldn't see the elements of contact because he was limited to that. There were some times in the spring I didn't know that there was a problem. Seeing him move and do things like that, he just couldn't have any contact. So I knew from the element of him being able to move, him being able to run, him being able to change direction, we were going to get something that was going to be elite or on the top end of everything from a linebacker play standpoint. Now you put together some of the physicality, him being able to make the plays at the point of attack from a contact standpoint, you can see he's going to be one of the elite linebackers that you all will be talking about in the days to come and years to come.
Coach, with Keenan specifically, how do you manage him through the next month to get to, game 1? When do you know he's had enough contact coming off that injury, his age, all those? How do you manage a veteran like that?
Well, it's probably the best thing about the management that you can do is just the growth with the young men in the rest of the room, because we know we can take care of him. He's already kind of been there and done that. The one thing you must do is you got to walk the line of knowing that he has to be able to strain to be able to accomplish some things, but also in some of the physical elements, we can be able to gear him back and put someone else in, and that gives us the ability to be able to see, can this young player, let's say like Jalen Smith, can he do what he's supposed to do? Can Caleb Perry do what he's supposed to do? Can T-Lander do what he's supposed to do? And that allows us to be able to give those guys some extra reps and some extra eyes on them for their growth and development.
With Arion only being a sophomore, is there any part of his game that you would say is kind of mature beyond his years?
The element that he has is something that you can't coach, is his speed and his quickness. He is elusive when he's on the football field, almost like a cheetah. So it's great to have a linebacker that can move like that, but have the body that he has from a physical nature. So he's someone we're going to be able to really utilize in the days, years, and games to come.
Back in the spring, you talked about Edwin Spillman being a player that someone's going to know about, or everyone's going to know about in 5 months. How has he continued that trend to this point?
You will know who number 13 is when he's on the field. It was 47 in the spring. It's 13 now. Everyone knows who he is, and you all will know for sure. From a physicality standpoint, he is exactly what you want. To see him growing and developing each day as a coach, it is so gratifying and satisfying. Probably one of the things that's unique, we have some examples in our room what the gold standard of linebacker play is. And when you think about that, just with the history and tradition of this place, you think about Al Wilson. Well, to have Al Wilson at practice today, I think that really brought some elements to the guys in the room, and Edwin was one of them, because he is walking in the footsteps of someone like that for sure.
Do you want your guys to be able to play both those 2 spots, Mike and Will, interchangeable, or do you want one to focus on this position, one to focus on this position?
Well, the thing you do is you have to be able to play or understand what both positions do, just because offenses can motion or shift to trade and get you in some jams if you don't understand the concepts. But we'd like to have someone who is a true Mike backer, someone who is a Will backer, but they have to know both elements, just because offenses could get you kind of pigeonholed, and that's what you do not want to do. The things we tell our guys, you got to be able to run fast and hit hard. If you can do that and play in space, you're going to be able to be on the football field.
I was going to ask a similar question just in terms of the body types of those 2 inside linebacker positions. Do you prefer different styles of linebackers in terms of physicality, and do you feel like your room has several different types of personalities in that regard?
Yeah. We do have different types of personalities, different styles, but the biggest thing you got to do, you got to be fast. You got to be fast, you got to be athletic, you got to be big, because the biggest thing we have to be able to do from an offensive perspective, the first thing they try to do is get you out in space and try to highlight you. And if you don't have the speed and quickness to play out in space, then you're going to be a very average to below average linebacker. And then the other thing you have to be able to do is you have to have the physical elements to be able to play inside the jungle when the big uglies up front come to block you. So you have to have what we call a healthy compromise of all of the characters and traits from a linebacker standpoint. You got to be fast enough to play out in space, physical enough to be able to play in the core, and a lot of that is going to be with your mindset.
Coach, how much do you want to rotate guys? Are you wanting to play 3 or 4, or do you want kind of have 2 guys, your starters, and rely on them mostly, or is it a matter of who earns playing time and the trust of you and the staff?
Yeah, the one thing that we try to do, and this is also where recruiting comes into play, we tell guys, if you're prepared and you're ready, you're going to play. And that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to play 5, 6 guys, because if we can give everyone a role and be fresh in the end of the football game, I just experienced that at my previous place, and that's why we're in a position to go play in the national championship game, is because our guys were not worn out in the end of the season. If your goal is like you want it to in your room, you can be fresh in the end of the season if you're playing enough guys, and I think that's something that we want to look forward to doing on defense, is being able to have a good, healthy rotation to where guys don't get over-repped, but also know that your stars, they're going to get the money plays.
What do you know about this group that you didn't know about them in your assessment of them in spring, when you left spring? What do you know about your linebackers now that you didn't know 5 months ago?
Probably one of the biggest things is that they love to work, and their element of preparation is, for them, I would say, beyond their years right now, to see the things that they do when no one is watching, when you're not around. They are what you would call your junkies in the building. Sometimes when you leave the parking lot, you know how you say, well, gosh, there's a car sitting over there. I wonder, is this car broken? So I would send a text message, hey, AC, man, are you okay? Is your car good? No, Coach, I'm just here in the linebacker room watching some film, and this is at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And that's to me, that's what it's all about, to see those guys from a preparation standpoint. They know they're really taking the football preparedness to new heights and to a new level, and that's what we want, and that's how you become elite at this position.
Sort of related to that, maybe when you look back at Arion and film from last season, what were the things you see last year that maybe held him back a little bit, and how do you think he's grown in those areas this offseason?
Yeah, I think, last year as a freshman, he's very youthful. He was trying to put things together, but sometimes may not have understood the whole concept of something. And I think that's kind of what my mission was coming in, was to show him not just his job, but what the people around him was doing. And I think that's something that he's kind of really been intentional about, him learning, knowing what the guys around him is doing, and it's really helped him understand his job on those given plays.
Coach, when you have a guy like Edwin Spillman who has a brother already in the program, just in your experience, how have you seen having that older, younger brother dynamic help the younger brother improve and grow at a faster rate?
It's great, Casey, because the one thing that Edwin had coming here, he knew half of the stuff already. He knew half of the people. He understood everyone. He was able to put names and faces. Now, unfortunately, he knew more about the program than I did, just because we literally got here 1 week apart. So there were some things that he was telling me, and I was telling myself, like, hey, how do you know this? He's like, oh, yeah, Coach, hey, I came down here to visit my brother, and I saw him. But he has some great perspective when you have someone that's been here, kind of already been there and done that, and that was his roommate when he first got here. So it really, really, really helped him kind of get his feet really planted so he can build a great foundation moving forward.
Coach, last few years you've been on the opposite end of some really good offenses. Last year with what Penix did at Fresno State. Have you had to adapt to quick strike offenses, and how do you think that will help you have a deeper position group here?
And that's something you always have to do when it comes to the quick strike. I think that, as we were talking earlier about making sure you have enough depth at your position and enough growth in your position, now you have the ability to play just as many players. So when you get to the end of the game, you're not worn out, and your player could be a step faster than he was earlier in the game, or the player that's in can be a step faster than they were earlier in the game, because there's nothing worse than putting your player in a position to be able to be successful, but the fatigue or tiredness really sets in because he's been out there and he's worn out and he can't make the play. That there's nothing more frustrating than that as a coach. So from our standpoint, we got to really put them through what we call the strainer, where you got to strain and you got to go through all the physicality things right now during training camp, so you can be ready when the bullets begin to fly. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, GBO.